Moi everyone and welcome to Finnish Plate. It's the beginning of fall, so that means that of course mushrooms are in season. And as I've said it many times before, Finns are avid foragers. Mushrooms are very well priced in Finland, self-picked mushrooms specifically, and out of those, chantarelles are one of the most popular ones. You can make many dishes out of chantarelles, but I decided that I'm gonna make some chantarelle pie, which is kind of like a savory quiche kind of a pie that has a savory crust, some cheese in it, and some onions, which always go well with mushrooms. So join me and I'll show you how to make this Finnish chantarelle pie. So my local Costco had some chantarelles in stock. They usually do in the fall. So I picked up a package, I cleaned these up, I rinsed them underwater, scrubbed off any dirt off of them. And what I'm gonna do is with my hands, I'm just gonna rip the bigger ones into smaller pieces. And that's it. But let's start with the crust. First, I have here 5 deciliters, about 2 cups and a quarter of regular all-purpose flour. I have 300 grams of butter that I'm gonna just tear into smaller pieces. I have 70 grams of potato flakes. The potato flakes are gonna make the crust tender. And then I have half a deciliter, about 2 ounces of cold water. So let's just mix up the potato flakes and the flour. And now we'll add the butter. The butter is a little bit soft. It's been sitting in room temperature for a little while, so it's easier to handle. And now we're just gonna get our hands in and mix this up and mix the butter in to the flour and the potato flakes. We're just gonna add the water and just quickly make a dough out of this. Don't work it too much because that's going to develop gluten. Gluten is going to make the dough tough. Pretty much so that it just comes together. And that's it. And there's still a little water left, so let's just mix that in. All right, there we go. Now I'm going to take the dough and put it in my baking vessel, and I'm just going to press it. And we're going to press it all around to spread it. I'm just going to use a little flour in my fingers, so this way my fingers don't get so sticky. And of course we're trying to get this as even as possible. And also what we want to do is create a little bit of lip on the side of the pan, baking pan. There we go. This is now going to go in the fridge to wait for us to make the filling. Now I'm going to turn my frying pan on at about medium-high heat. I'm going to add my chantarelles, but I'm just going to quickly rip the bigger ones in smaller pieces with my hands. Okay, so I'm going to put these on my pan. There's still a couple that can be ripped into pieces. And if I still see any stems or something that have a little bit of dirt on them, I'll just remove them. I'll add about a teaspoon of salt. And we're going to cook these until they've lost pretty much all their liquid. While my mushroom is cooking, I'm going to add into my mixing bowl 4 eggs. And I'm going to whisk these up. add 4 deciliters of heavy cream. Whisk that up to combine. I'm gonna season this with some salt and pepper. And now that everything's combined, I'm gonna add 300 grams of mixed Gruyere and Swiss cheese. And the thyme. And mix it all up. So once the mushroom and onion mixture is ready, we're going to let it cool down just a little bit so it doesn't cook this filling. But once it's cooled down, we're going to mix it in here, and then we're going to pour it on the crust that we just made. There's still quite a bit of liquid left here, so I'm going to keep cooking these until pretty much all the liquid has evaporated. Now the mushrooms have dried up. We can see that there's very little water left, and we can actually hear the sizzle, which sounds different. So I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of butter and 2 onions chopped. And now we're going to cook this until the onions have slightly browned, as well as the mushrooms. Okay, now the onions have lost most of their volume and they're lightly browned. So I'm going to turn off the heat, and we're going to let this cool for just a moment, just enough so that it doesn't scramble the eggs that are in here. There's a lot of liquid in there anyway, so it's not a huge problem, but we'll just take extra precaution there. Now let's just pour this mixture in our batter over here. And we'll just mix it all up. Here we go. And we'll pour all of this into our crust. And just even it out. Oops. This is going to go in the oven, 200 Celsius, about 400 Fahrenheit, for about 30 minutes or so. So my pie was in the oven, 400 degrees Fahrenheit, about 200 Celsius, for maybe about half an hour. Just look, when it starts to develop a little bit of color on the crust and on the filling, then you're probably pretty much done. The one thing that you have to do though is wait until it's cooled down before you serve it, otherwise the filling will kind of fall out. I let this cool down completely, so now it's ready to be eaten. You can eat this warm or cold. It freezes very well too, so you could obviously freeze pieces of it and then enjoy them through the next few weeks. So let's cut into it. Let's see how it turns out. Let's cut a wedge off of it. Now remember, there's the piece of parchment paper on the bottom, so this shouldn't stick to the bottom, but we still want to get it out in a relatively nice looking piece, which is sometimes a little difficult. Let's see. It definitely helps that it's cooled down completely when you're cutting a piece. There we go. Alrighty. And here we go. We have a slice of our mushroom pie. So let's give our chantarelle pie a taste. It has a very savory taste. I thought maybe it wouldn't have enough salt, but I think with the cheese and all, There's no need for additional salt. The mushrooms come through very nicely, and the onions, they kind of complement the mushrooms very well in this dish. This is definitely one very savory vegetarian dish that you could serve if you want to have maybe a meatless Monday or something like that. And of course the cream and the cheese bring in a lot of that creaminess to the party, which is always welcome. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Finish Your Plate.